This slow beginner lesson will cover how to improvise chords and melodies, just like this. And we'll do everything very slowly, step by step. So this is perfect for beginners or even intermediates, because we'll cover some exercises, how to create your own melodies and, be creative playing chords and stop pressing simple shapes like this one, and instead sound like you're actually improvising a song. Hi, I'm Vincent from Better Chords Academy, and this is a slow beginner lesson, and I'll show you all the steps to playing inversions and improvising melodies, and we'll do everything really slowly and step by step. So stick around and follow along to get the best results here. Now, I really think this is probably the only video you'll ever need to watch about how to improvise, playing chords and playing melodies. And if you want an even more structured approach doing all this, then click the link below in the description or in the pinned comment to watch my free Better Chords 5-day foundation course. All right, step number 1. We have to relearn how we play chords on piano and also why we're practicing them in the first place. So if we want to get that sound where we combine chords and melodies, then we need to learn them differently. So a lot of times I see people pressing the chord with their left hand and then trying to play a melody in the right hand. And that can be something which sounds nice and you can get a result probably quickly, but it's very, very limiting. And also, I just don't like the sound of playing the chord that low because it gets really muddy. So what we want to do instead, and let me show this with a C major chord, we want to play the chord in the right hand. And in the left hand, we only play the bass or the root note of the chord. That's the one that gives the chord its name. In this case, it's C, so we add a C in the left hand. And you can also play the octave in the left hand, meaning we play the C again when it appears the next time below. So this would be a C major chord. And this sounds really nicely if you compare it to this one. I like that one a lot better. Now, to be able to use this and improvise in any key, for example in C major, we need to know two things. First, we need to know the chords of the key, and we need to be able to play them in all inversions. Now, let me explain all of that. We'll learn the chords and I'll show you the inversions, what they are and how you can practice them. So the way we do all this is with what I call the chord mastery exercise. This is the only thing you'll ever need to be doing to practice chords, and it works like a charm. So first, let's look at the key of C major. Now, this is simply just playing the white notes on the keyboard. So we have C, D, E, F, G, A, B, and C. Now, we already saw the first chord, which is C major. Now, what actually is a chord? If you look at the notes of C major, then it's quite clear. We have a note from the scale, then we leave one from C major, then we play another note from C major, then we leave another one, and we play one. So play one, leave one, play one, leave one, play one. It's a very simple formula to play really any chord in any key. Now again, add the root in the left hand. And what we want to do now is we shift this chord to the right, going up the key of C major. So don't think in terms of intervals or which chord comes next. All I want you to do is raise up your hand off the keys, shift it one white key to the right without changing any shapes or moving the fingers anywhere, and simply press down again. And already we have another chord. Now if you repeat this entire process until you arrive back at C, that's the chord mastery exercise. Now what I also want you to do while we press the chord, we say the name of the chord. And that's because we want to have a mind-muscle connection built, where if we, for example, see a chord on a lead sheet like G major, we can simply find it immediately. And also it's just a great way to memorize the names of the chords and their relationships to later get into progressions. So we know the names of the white keys, but now we have to figure out, are they major or minor? And here we can use a very simple formula. And this is major, minor, minor, major, major, minor, diminished. So we have three types of chords. It's one major chord, then we have two minor chords, then again two major chords, and then one minor, one diminished. Okay, so let's put all of this together. We play the chords, shifting them to the right, and we say the names of the chords out loud. So do this with me very slowly. So we start. C major, D minor, E minor, F major, G major, A minor, B diminished, and again C major. Okay, now already you know all the chords of C major, which is a great first achievement. So now we want to get into inversions. Inversions is a fancy name for rearranging the notes of any chord. Now, if we have three notes in C major, how many different ways are there to arrange them? And, let's include something like this one, because that wouldn't be playable as a chord. We want to have them next to each other. So that gives us a total of three different options. The first one, we already know. Now, if we take C, E, G, and we rearrange them as E, G, C, you would get first inversion. And our last option would be G, C, E, which is second inversion. Now, to memorize these, I have a very simple trick. All you have to do, well, first of all, this is root position, and that's because the thumb is playing here, the root note, the lowest note as the bass note. For first inversion, look at the top note, and you can see that this one is a bit further apart from the others. So if there's one lonely note at the top, it's first inversion. And you can tell for second inversion, we have two notes at the top. So two notes at the top, second inversion, one note at the top, first inversion, and root position, where the root is at the bottom. Okay, the next step is now to play our chord mastery exercise in first and second inversion. So let's start with first inversion. Remember that we have one lonely note at the top. Another thing that's very useful is to remember that now our root note is being played by our fifth finger. So if you need to look for orientation, always look at your fifth finger and just aim for the, note that gives the chord you want to play its name. So if you want to play a C major chord, we have to play a C with our fifth finger. Again, add the left hand, and the left hand always plays the C in whichever inversion we are, and go through the key of C. Do the chord mastery exercise. Say the name of the chord out loud and practice this with me. Let's go. C major, D minor, E minor, F major, G major, A minor, B diminished, and C major. Alright, one thing left to do. Let's go for second inversion. Now the root of the chord in the right hand is being played by a third finger. So to find second inversion, aim for the root note with your third finger. And then remember that we have the two notes at the top grouped together. Let's start, do the chord mastery exercise. We go. C major, D minor, E minor, F major, G major, A minor, B diminished, and C major. Alright, now we know 7 different chords in the key of C major, and we know 3 different ways to play those. Now let's pick just 4 chords from this key to play a simple 6-4-1-4 5 progression. Now, what does that mean? When we play progressions, we usually have these numbers, and these simply relate back to our root of the key. So if we're in C major, then we can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then you just take these numbers. So you have 6, 4, 1, and 5. So for example, if I were to play all of these in root position, it would sound like this. 6, 4, 1, and 5. Awesome, so that's your first chord progression. Now, to practice this, we take the principle from before, but now we apply it to only this progression. Meaning we no longer only switch to the right one step each time, but now we have to make jumps and find the right chords. So do the same thing where first, like we just did, we practice them in root position, and then first inversion and second inversion. So let's do all of this together. Again, we're doing this step by step, very slowly, so all of you can follow along. Start with A minor, and then play the entire progression. And you don't have to say the names of the chords here. You can if it helps you, but don't worry about this for now. So we start with our 6th chord, A minor. And the 4 chord. Then comes 1, our root, C major, and the 5 chord. Do this one more time. F major, C major, and G major. Okay, now how do we find first inversion? Remember that we want to play the root note with our 5th finger for inversion, and we have the lonely note at the top. So for A minor, or 6th chord, we would start right here. Now if you struggle finding these at this point, go back to the chord mastery exercise and focus on simply playing the chords, connecting them with the mind muscle memory, right? We want to do A minor, B diminished, and then when you apply to the progressions, you remember from the chord mastery exercise that this is the A minor shape in first inversion. So let's apply this to the progression and play the chords. So we start with A minor, then to the 4 chord F major, now to C major, and last G major, the 5 chord. One more time. And let's get straight to second inversion. Now we play the root with our 3rd finger, and maybe instead of playing up here, let's just shift it down an octave, which is the same notes, so it sounds a bit nicer. That's the 1st chord, A minor. Next is F major, C major, and G major, the 5 chord. One more time. Great job. So now you don't only know the chords, you're able to actually use them in a progression and use the different inversions. So we're getting very, very close to that point where we're starting to improvise. So stick around for just 2 or 3 more minutes. This is where it's going to get really, really interesting. So step 2 is combining these inversions, the root position, first, second inversion, and becoming flexible with them. So what does that mean? Why do we want to do this? Well, with 3 inversions for each chord, we have 3 different notes that we can put at the top of the chord, right? So for C major, root position would have the G at the top. First inversion has, of course, the C at the top. And second inversion has the E as the top note. Now the top note is the one that our brain and ears perceive as the melody. So this is simply because it's the easiest for our ears to pick out, right? We can hear the higher frequencies quite well. And these notes will be the ones that we can use as different melody notes. So to get to the point where we actually play melodies, first we have to explore these different top notes and try getting more comfortable using the different inversions, not only in isolation like this, but to start to combine them. So here as a first step, you can go back to the chord mastery exercise and now do this with combining all the inversions for each chord. So let me just quickly show you the principle, right? Instead of doing this, we first play all the inversions for each chord. Total of 4 chords in the right hand. So it goes like this. We go root position first and go up to first inversion. Now second inversion and back to first inversion. So we have a total of 1, 2, 3, 4 different chords. And then instead of going to root position C again, we immediately go to the next chord in root position, which is D minor now. So again, root position, first, second, first, E minor, and so on. So let me do this once slowly for you so you can play along. And for this again, you don't have to say the names of the chords anymore, but just focus on making these jumps in your right hand. So let's do this together. And remember where the root note is. So now it's in the thumb, now the 5th finger, and now the 3rd finger plays the D, 5th finger plays the D. Now the E is being played by the thumb, 5th finger, 3rd finger. So aim for those. Two more chords, almost there. And we arrive back at C. So the next step now is to apply this principle again to our progression. So the progression is where the music is. The songs are all built around progressions. So now this is where we start to really explore this flexibility of putting these different notes as the top notes, which is the very last step we do before actually starting to improvise. So let's go back to our first chord. Can you remember? It's the 6th chord. So A minor, and you would do the exact same thing through the progression now. So let's do this together and play the inversions through our progression. So we start again in root position, first, second, now go to F, now to C, and G major. And remember where we aim for the root note. So one more time, the thumb plays the A, the 5th finger, 3rd finger, 5th finger, now F major. 5th finger plays the F, now 3rd finger, now to C. And G major. Alright, so here's a little bonus step. You can try to improvise with these inversions where you pretty much switch randomly. So I'm not going to give you an exercise for this one. It's just something that you can explore yourself. And for example, it could sound like this, like I start maybe in root position, go to second inversion, play first inversion, go to root position. Now maybe we can start in first inversion F major, go to root position, back to first, to second. Now go to root position C, for example, go to second inversion, jump up to first inversion, fifth finger plays the C, back to root, and in G, first inversion, second inversion down here, third finger plays the G, root position, and first inversion. So this is already where you can start improvising and use these different top notes to create already the first outline of a melody. So let's take a second and talk about what a melody actually is before we start playing them and improvising them. So a melody usually consists of small steps plus some larger jumps. Now, so far we only have jumps, right? We're jumping around between our top notes from the inversions. So for example, on the A, the melody would be E, C, A, C, for example. So it's always jumping around a bit. So the only thing left to do to play an actual melody is adding some smaller steps. So for example, if this is what we have right now from the inversions, a melody could, for example, go like this. And then you can continue down, make a jump. And I think we can all agree that this sounds closer to an actual melody. And you can always think like a singer. So a singer wouldn't go here and there and low and back high and back low. And this is really, not a great melody to sing. If you ever want to, for example, have a radio song where people can sing along, it's really difficult. So that's why a melody usually has those small steps, which are, of course, easy to sing. So if we go back to our chord progression and we take our inversion exercise, we can now add a note below or above all of those, which is a small step, and thus we create a melody. So, for example, let's start with a root position, right? We're here. And now if we jump to the next root position F, we have this jump here in the top note. So to put some small steps in there, let's simply do the following. We start in root position, and then we play the note below. So we have the top note, play the note below, and then go back up. So now we have two small steps. Now we make a jump, land in root position F. Now again, play the note below the top note, and then go back up. So let's do this throughout the entire progression. Now to C, play the note below, and now to G, and I think that's really cool already because you can start to get a sense of where this is going to go. So let's do this one more time, try to follow along. So we always play root position and we alternate top note, note below, and top note. One more time. Okay, so let's now do the same thing with first inversion, right? We have all those different options. We have 3 different top notes, and we can add notes below all of those. So this will double our options now. So we start in first inversion. Remember that our 5th finger is now playing the root note. And let's do the same thing where we play the note below and we go back up. Let's do this through the entire progression. Now to F major, C major, and G. And repeat this one more time. All right, second inversion still remaining. Let's get to it. We start down here. Our third finger is playing the A, remember that. And we do the same thing, where we play the note below and go back up. All right, so let's do the entire progression together. And one more time. And how amazing does that sound? I think that's my favorite one of the three different options. Second inversion. I just love that sound because it takes us into that sus2 territory. And we don't even have to think about any theory or whatever. We're just changing one note of our inversions. I think that's pretty cool. So, yeah, now we've done the note below. And you might have already guessed, you can do the same thing with the note above, right? So let's try this. So for example, we could start again in root position. And to do this now, of course, it's difficult because our fifth finger is already the top note and we don't have a sixth finger here. So one thing you can do now is to play the root position with 1, 2, 4, which is also fingering you can use for them. And then you can simply play a top note. So let's do this together once for the root position. 1, 2, 4 for F major. And again, you can go through both of the other inversions as well for this. Now to expand our options a little further, because I hear you going down one note simply cannot maybe be counted as a melody. I would argue it could, but you know, if you want to say that's not a melody, fine. Let's do 2 notes, which will, you know, we have 2 small steps and then a jump. And I think this can really be called a melody now. So very simply, we go down 2 notes. Okay, so that means we have to, of course, release our third finger from the chord and then play the note below and the second note below. So let's do the same thing, root position, going down 2 notes to really get a sense of adding these melodies into those chords. Let's do the entire progression together. So we start in root position again. Four chord, F major, C major, and G major. Now let's get straight to first inversion. We've been doing this a lot. I'm sure you're a pro with these exercises by now. So let's not waste any more time and get straight into first inversion. Now you notice with this one, it sounds a bit crunchy because we always land on this very close 2-note relationship, which creates sort of a dissonance, but I think it's cool and we can definitely use this, right? The good melody lives from those imperfections, those tension moments. So I think that's very beautiful. So let's get straight to second inversion and do the same thing throughout the entire progression. So we start in A minor, F major, C major, and G major. And again, I would say second inversion is probably my favorite one of all of those. It just works so well. So you can use second inversion more and then sprinkle in those first inversion, tensions a bit. Okay, so when we play the chords now, we have 3 inversions we can use for each one, and then 4 options to add, well, a melody below and above, but also to add 2 notes below and above for creating melodic lines. And this means each chord we have 12 options in total, meaning for the entire progression, we can play around 20,000 different progressions with just this method. And I think this is the closest you can get to true improvisation in just 20 minutes as a total beginner. Okay, so what's next? Now, at any point, if you felt like this was still a bit fast for you or you have any question, then go through the 5-day foundation course or just ask me a question you have in the live lesson we do every week in my community. The link to join is in the pinned comment or in the description below. Now, I recommend you first choose these options deliberately. So, meaning, let's say in this progression, you pick some inversions, then you pick connecting notes, and then you play and practice the progression. And as you do this more, you'll get comfortable choosing them while playing, which will get you closer and closer to true improvisation. So that means, for example, you could pick, I want to start in A minor in second inversion and do 2 connecting notes down. Then I want to go to F major in first inversion and do 2 connecting notes down. Then go to C major in root, go 1 down, 1 up. And then, for example, go to G major in first inversion and go 1 down, 1 up again. So pick these first deliberately, and then you can try and play them. So you could write these down and then try to play them like this. For example, and then explore your options. Go above, and again, take the note above. And again, as you become more comfortable, you can speed this up. You can choose the inversions while playing, which is where true improvisation really happens, and you're not just improvising, you're actually composing a melody, a song on the spot. And then again, it could sound something like this. So for the end, let me play a very slow backing track for you of the 6-4-1-5 progression. And this is perfect to focus maybe only on the right hand. You can do those exercises from before with the connecting notes or with the inversions. So any of those we did before over this chord progression, this is the perfect time to do so. We start in 3, 2, 1, and...